Did you know that Goro, the man, the myth, the legend, was introduced, first mentioned in chapter 40 of One Punch Man? And that was back in 2014. Ayo, it has been literally over 8 years, approaching 9, since Goro was first mentioned in One Punch Man manga. And it's only now, in 2022, have Murata and One finally wrapped up all these Goro shenanigans. Goro now is seemingly a solid lad. Muy bueno. He no longer wants to run around and start killing heroes in mass. No, he no longer, at least seemingly, no longer wants to be this apex villain that wants to control the world through fear and bring in prosperity and equality through fear and being this god level threat. No. The psychopath, the mad lad Goro, is officially gone. And the solid lad Goro has entered the story. And it's taken Murata and One 8 years. In chapter 169, great number, to finally get it all done. Wow, what a ride. What a ride. Could you imagine that? 8 years ago, Goro mentioned the story. 8 years later, that's like what? College, graduate school, that kind of stuff. You've gone through all that. And finally, we have reached the promised land. Goro no longer wants to be the god level threat. He's gonna be all right. Oh, wow. He's not gonna be a hero at this point in time, but he's still a solid lad. That's crazy in terms of actual time frame. But was it worth it though? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would argue, oh yeah, particularly as a non-webcomic reader. As a guy that only watches the anime and read the manga, oh yeah. My goodness, this has been one hell of an arc. And the arc, I think at this point in time is either over or it's almost over. The fat lady is not singing just yet, but she's on stage ready to pop off. And this arc is about to finally end. But this has been a crazy arc. Let's looking back on all real quick. When you think about the S-Class versus the Cadre, like Flashy Flash versus Hellfire Flame and Gale Wind, or Drive Night versus Neon, or Child Emperor versus Phoenix Mans, both the original and the redraw. Very good stuff. Oh my god. Black Sperm. Greatness. Across the board, yo. Across the board. Black Sperm, Golden Sperm, Platinum Sperm. Woo! You will never see a grown man more hyped about sperm unless they're reading One Punch Man. Yeah, boy. Or they're into some sort of industry that I can't mention on YouTube because it'll be demonetized. It is what it is. But undeniable hype, of course. Psychos versus Tatsumaki. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Tatsumaki was never on my radar at all. And then all of a sudden, boom, this arc catapulted. She is one of the coolest chicks I've ever read in manga. Tatsumaki is flames. And all it really took was one arc, albeit a very long arc. Yes, years. But damn, worth, absolutely. And obviously, who can forget the outstanding artwork that is Murata, on a regular basis getting better and better. Truly some breathtaking scenes. Standalone artwork itself, outstanding, great. GIFs, really, GIFs, impressive. And of course, a lot of these colored panels and these colored pictures, outstanding. The ones of God and him on the moon, him talking to Homeless Emperor were stunning, yo, stunning. And then he gets some assistance from other guys like Bekasaku on Twitter, who has also done a great work with some of the colored work. Like for example, Jupiter and the moon Io. Those colored shots were muy bueno. And they're part of the core reason why I love that chapter 167, which I think to date is one of the best chapters I've ever read, period. And very seldomly do I give an 11 out of 10. That chapter was absolutely an 11 out of 10 baby oil status. I love that chapter. And across the board, Saitama versus Garo. Oh. Saitama versus Garo is so good. When I think about some of the best fights I've read my entire life, fights from, let's say, Hunter x Hunter or Dragon Ball Z or One Piece or Naruto or Bleach or Hajime no Ippo or Gantz, Vagabond, Vinland Saga, Berserk. No. Oh my god. This fight's incredible. This fight's so incredible, yo. Even though I was worried about the roundtable talk and the lack of character development, no. A Cosmic Fear Garo, oh my goodness, just so good. Saitama and the emotions and Genos dying, so good. And seeing how it all comes to a head in the last chapter with the time wiggle. And then Saitama punching Garo through the time stream. The punch that never happened to end it all. Oh. But the punch that came right in the nick of time? This is so good. For me personally, this fight I think has been, it's in my top 5. It's in my top 5 best fights I've ever read in my entire life. It's up there somewhere with Hoken versus Shin from Kingdom. Let's focus on this chapter itself. This chapter itself is simple, straightforward, but it adds a very important context that a lot of folks were worried about going into this chapter. The events of the past chapters, or in this case, the future timeline, those events would be erased because Saitama went back in time and then punched Garo through the time stream itself. So a lot of the character growth that we get no longer applies. No. This is the beauty of this chapter. All of the events in terms of character development, they still apply because at the bare minimum, Genos now knows it all. But then not only that, we see that Garo from the future kind of travels back into like spirit-ish form and actually talks to Tara for a bit and tells him to stand up, get up, before Tario sees him and then he fades away into the ether. But moving forward, Garo of the current timeline is actually being affected by Garo of the future timeline. Garo had lost his dream right then and there, and I thought it would lead to a whole round of fighting. But of course, in hindsight, not making much sense because the scale was already so tremendous in the past 3 to 4 chapters, and with a massive downgrade in power, it would just be cleanup duty for Saitama at that point. But I thought that fighting may still be the case here because he just lost his dream and he'd want it back ASAP. No. Future Garo, in some crazy way that actually flows against the natural flow of causality in One Punch Man, affects current timeline Garo, and current timeline Garo decides to sit there and take all the blows and take all the shots from the tank top gang. Time stuff is always tricky. It's always tricky. But more so than time, in this situation, it's causality. So when Saitama used his twerk to get back to the past, maybe a part of Garo from the future also came with, because that Garo's also doing that same twerk. They're both twerking on Io to get back into the past. But in Garo's case, he lacked the real power to completely go back into the past. And of course, Garo was like, no, give me your power. Hell no. However, Saitama is weird. And off the rip, things were weird because we saw that causality was actually fixing the universe. We actually see the night sky, where the damage from the series squared that normally would have happened in the future a few minutes later, that damage was starting to repair itself, where stars and nebulas, the cosmos itself was repairing itself after the series squared, because that no longer happens. But Saitama kept Genos' core. How? If the stars that are not living things can repair themselves because the causality of the universe has to fix itself as a result of the minus punch, the punch that never happened in the previous chapter to beat Garo, why is Genos' core still around? The answer has got to be Saitama. Saitama, in a crazy way, goes against the flow of causality. And actually, Genos kind of talks about that in that very long Hunter x Hunter sort of a very long Hunter x Hunter sort of panel where he goes over the reasons why this could happen. And at its root, what Genos is saying here is that Saitama can essentially transcend space and time itself if he needs to save people / important people like the heroes that all died as a result of Garo's action. He also even brings up the idea of parallel worlds. And if parallel universes are real, then this could actually explain potentially Blast's clique. So you have Battle Beast, you have Boris, you have a elf-ish, wildish Fubuki. Hold on now. If there's actual other dimensions, then they could also be from these alternate dimensions. And Saitama going back in time, like on some Loki action, could have actually been a move to create another parallel universe in some sense. It's a very intriguing premise here. It really, really is. And this has also affected Saitama's memories, but it doesn't change the fact that these things in the future still have sway over the current timeline, not only through, of course, Genos' core, but now distinctly and clearly with Garo, because future Garo is affecting current timeline Garo. So I do like this. I definitely do, without a doubt. Because now all these things in the previous chapters in the future timeline aren't washed away because of Saitama's time jiggle. No. Even if Saitama himself doesn't remember fully, his actions have permanently altered causality in some weird-ish ways. And Garo and Saitama and Genos now know what happens in a future timeline. That is obviously going against the natural flow of causality, clearly. And now the floodgates have opened, because now that all the heroes are alive, this includes Zombie Man and Flashy Flash, and so when Zombie Man asks Garo about God, Flashy Flash, huh, what do you mean God? And we all know that Flashy Flash was there when Saitama, the Eye Monster, and him saw some unique supernatural presence in this pocket of space-time. Yes. So, now, to be fair, Flashy Flash, I think, is what's insulting this chapter, because he does kind of comment on Blast being naked when he punched Garo. So, reputation damaged. And Drive Knight, he a bum. Always coming late, hella late. The party's already done, and the man comes in there hella late to grab those scraps from the punch bowl. Like, what do you, no, what? Get the hell out! But who is beastly is King. Oh. That King engine? Everyone parts like it's Moses style? Beautiful. This man is actually biblical. Even in my mask. Hey, King. Huh? Oh. King genuinely shutting down a my mask. Lads, act appropriately. We are in the presence of children. Ooh. Ooh. King, Saitama, Genos, Garo, Bang, Amai Mask, Tatsumaki, Psychos. So many characters have gone through great character development across the board. We need some downtime for damn sure. And even though God exists as this ever-looming, all-encompassing threat that could potentially encompass all the timelines, the entire omniverse that is potentially One Punch Man, and even though God just disappeared like that, we need some downtime. Absolutely. And Garo leaving though he did, that is some straight MCU post-credit scene action right there, without a doubt. Garo will return. Confirmed. And this time when he does, he's gonna be a wholesome, decent lad.